Today I'm going to compare the 3 most popular expert advisor generators based on my 5 years experience with using them all. With these programs I don't need to code the trading robots myself, even though I can code expert advisors. It's just much easier and faster to do it this way. And you'll see the pros and cons, you can decide which one's best for you. I'll also provide free expert advisors, so stick around to the end for that. The first one is the Strategy Builder Professional. First generator ever invented, and let's take a look at it and show how to use it. I've just opened FSB Pro, and this is the greetings page. There's some available strategies that we can click here. However, we're going to quickly show how to create our own one. We will click the new strategy tab, and here's what we're greeted with, and we are going to generate. So I'm going to select the data source, USDJPY, and I'm going to select H1 time frame, and I'll just save to a collection that we will name USDJPH1 SAM. There is no strategy at the moment, so it's all empty, and we're going to use the generator to generate. First of all, we're going to set the date range. So the date range, as we can see, is between 2017 and 2025. There's about 50,000 bars there. We're able to set that in the control panel. If we go to data horizon, we can change the number of bars and the date ranges, and we're also able to, using the history center, it's got inbuilt data, so we can actually download data by selecting this and hitting download, but that's already been done. And so if we go to the generator, we'll generate on this. We've set the default settings for the swaps and spreads. Again, FSB Pro can do that in the symbols. For each symbol we can set the relative, the swaps and the spreads in there, but we'll just use this for now. And in the generator we'll have a look at the common settings. So we're always going to use a stop loss, and between 200 and 2000 points. Take profit usage, we'll always use that too. We'll say may use a break even. We'll do 4 and 3 opening and closing logic slots, so that it can have up to 4 entry rules and up to 3 exit rules. And we're able to set the different, for the generator, everything's on at the moment. So we've got opening point of position, can use all of these available choices, opening logic, and there's all these indicators that, you can see there's quite a big range of indicators, and likewise I've got them set to be all on. And in the settings, we'll just run it for 10 minutes, best profit factor. These are the defaults I typically tend to have. We will only pass ones that have the acceptance criteria of 100 trades and a minimum profit factor of 1, just so we see something to work with. We obviously want better strategies than that, and these are the defaults, so we'll leave that on. We're able to actually choose the number of threads, and in this case we'll choose 8, and I will click go. Now, the first thing to note is the computing power that's being used. So it's generating already. We can see that number moving. So it's already tested 500, 600 different ideas. So that's different combinations of indicators, different combinations of take profit and stop loss and entry and exit rules to find strategies. And it is basically collected 30. It's showing the best one. These are all popping up in the repository that we named USDH1 SAM. So yeah, the point also is that FSB Pro, because this computer's not got loads of processing power, it's using a lot of that. When I've said use 8 threads, essentially it is using quite a bit. Now, you can use that in many different ways. You could, for example, put all that processing power onto this one strategy, or you could open another one and say when you generate, you could have several running at the same time and use less, right? So you can have many working in tandem on maybe some different pairs and stuff. But in this case, I've chosen to dedicate quite a lot of resources to that. So we've collected 81. Let's stop there. That's enough for demonstration purposes, and we'll have a look at the repository. We can further kind of improve things here. So let's say I only want to see a minimum profit factor of 1.4, and that's looking good. And now we can then select some strategies. Now, this one clearly to me looks like my preferred strategy. So I'm going to click this, and now we can double click it, and yeah, it's the one that was showing here, and we're able to see stop loss and take profit. It's using this Ichimoku to enter the market at the Tenkan Sen. These are the two entry indicators, and that's its exit. We can have a look and see what values it's got, and we can play around a little bit. We can see how things change if we change things, right? We'll go back to I'll just cancel, so anything I've changed. We could, if we wanted, say, add an indicator ourselves. We could add anything. We can even work on different higher time frames, which is something that is very beneficial for FSB Pro. It's like the ability to work on higher time frames. And for example, we could say, well, let's add a moving average. We want the bar to be above the moving average, and let's say on the higher time frame, H4, or maybe even the daily. And so we can see how that might help our, I've just changed that a bit, but that doesn't seem to be a bad thing. So we've got a profit factor of 1.97 with that change and 176 orders. If I cancel it, it's 1.70 and 315. So we've kind of maybe improved the strategy by doing that. We'll work with the original one just now, and I'll show some of the other tests. So now we've got our strategy that we're like, well, this is maybe a strategy we want to trade. We can perform some tests. So there's the comparator, which is going to allow us to EA Studio, well, all generation software, they're working with bars, and sometimes it's not clear. It's called ambiguous bars, and sometimes it's not clear if the strategy would have actually closed for a take profit or a stop loss. That can happen, and then it's ambiguous. Using different methods, we can see that pessimistic is which is what it's been generated on, is always going to choose the worst case scenario. But we can now click here and see that maybe there's not too much fluctuation, so it's not too sensitive to that. Some strategies you can find that these differences can make quite a big change, but in this case it's not too sensitive to that, so that's good information for us to know. We're also able to check on how it performs on different markets. Great indication of robustness is that this strategy is actually profitable and very good on another market. One is it's Euro JPY, so it's very good on Euro JPY as well as USD JPY, and also it's performed okay on AUD JPY, so that's a good indication of some robustness. And my favorite robustness test, other than out of sample, is if we click this, what this is doing is it's performing a number of tests. It's performing 100 tests essentially, and it's changing the parameters of the indicators used in the strategy. It's calculated 100 different tests, and it's basically plotted the balance line on this chart, and we can see here that it's saying of all these tests, 50% of them were profitable. Typically I prefer that to be closer to 80%, but that still looks like a strategy that is worth trading. Then what we're able to do with FSB Pro strategy, and we can save these as expert advisors. So we'll do that as FSB Pro MQ4, and we'll save that, and then we'll also save that as MQ5. So we can put those on and trade those straight away. So as you can see, the generator for this software is intuitive and it's finding good strategies. However, the true power of FSB Pro is for more advanced users with particular strategy ideas that they want to test. It is also slower to generate than the developer's newer products. The second generator is Express Generator. Express Generator, which I'll show on the screen now, it's an offline generator, and if we go to here, that you require node.js for. And this is basically JavaScript offline, and it's fast, light code, and ExpressGen basically uses that. As you can see here, you need to run a command, which is basically the same as typing this command into a command prompt window. So this text file is a .cmd file, and it's being copied in here and run. So basically it's calling this program node, and it's passing it some settings. And so in this case, we passed it some basic settings here, which I have set up in the file. So we've got our inputs here. So it's got, our take profit and stop loss, how many indicators use, our bars, our dates, what indicators are maybe turned on and off, and all the typical settings are in here. And then we're able to pass some extra overrides. So max working time, 10 minutes. It's going to do the premium USD JPY H1. It's going to save the file here. Again, we're just looking for something simple. 100 trades and profit factor 1, the spread is 10. If I now close FSB Pro, don't need to save that. No. And so our CPU, is this. Now to show how powerful this is, that's important. So let's double click this. And now this is immediately started running, right? I'm saying run it for 10 minutes and it's 10 seconds in, because it's already actually collected 14 strategies and it's calculated nearing 1,000 now, which is a similar speed as to what we saw with FSB Pro at a glance. But this is actually using far more bars, so it's actually using 80,000 rather than 50,000 because it's over a longer time frame. And also, if we now look at the task manager, it's actually only using 6% of the CPU. And so that then allows us we can actually run several of these in tandem. I can click another one, and now we've got 2 of them running, right? So now we've got both collecting, both now have, about 50 between them, and we're still only up at between them 10, 11% of the CPU, so we can run many more. And so it's a very kind of lightweight on resources and efficient way to generate strategies. We can save these, and now that's exporting a collection that can now be imported into either FSB Pro or EA Studio and back-tested further in there, tweaked in there, exported as expert advisors from one of those 2 great softwares. So ExpressGen is a great option for generating strategies. And as we can see, ExpressGen is very, very fast, and it's able to generate strategies in a way that maximizes computer resources, which is important. It is, however, missing the user interface, so it requires some basic coding. Not really coding, but scripting. That can make it a bit less appealing and a bit of more of a learning hurdle for many users. So finally, we've got EA Studio. EA Studio is run from the browser. It can be run from any browser, and I would say Chrome is the recommended, so that's the fastest one. So yeah, first of all, it's got a great user interface. Just clicking through it as I'm doing here, it's just nice, elegant software. We've got this intuitive, we've got the tabs, and then we can go further in with other tabs. You can open many at a time, you can open it from anywhere, you can open it on any computer because it is running from the browser. And I will set this running just now, and I'll talk through it a bit. So I'm just going to hit start and let it run in. It's also fast. We can see that this is training from 2010 to 2015, and you can see that's generating very fast. Hold on, I'm going to close these ExpressGens and let's have a look at the resources. So we can see Google Chrome is about 10%. So it's using, double the resources of ExpressGen, but far less than FSB Pro. It's generating very fast. I mean, look how many strategies we've got going in. And also, as with all of them, you can actually duplicate and you can run it in another instance. So you can run several generators at a time on different pairs, timeframes. So I'm generating on Blackpool data source because I intend to trade this on Blackpool, who are my favorite broker. So yeah, I'll just talk a little bit more about the settings, which I can do. I can't change any of them at the moment, but I can at least look at them. So I'm trading on Blackpool, USD JPY H1. All this is inbuilt data, and if I click on this, it will show several different data sources. So EA Studio actually has 8cap, it has Blackpool, it has DarwinX, it has several data sources that are automatically inbuilt into it. I've got the settings here of always using a stop loss and a take profit, both between 20 and 200. So the generator is going to search different combinations of those values for every strategy. 4 and 3 indicators again, so up to 4 entry, up to 3 exit. I've just got this running for 10 minutes. And for the balance line stability, what it's doing now is because it's reached its collection capacity, anything that is a new strategy that passes the acceptance criteria and has a better balance line stability than the worst one, it's going to offset and make its way into the collection and knock off the worst one. In terms of the acceptance criteria, I've set a very basic acceptance criteria of just 100 trades and just profitable both in and out of sample, and that gives us something to work with in the collection, which I'll show. We were able to set all the date ranges and the time settings. In tools, we've got session times. We can customize what indicators are being used, so you can see that some are turned on and some are turned off for entry and exit. We can even preset indicators so that we can have an indicator that is going to be present in every single strategy. For example, we might want to make sure that we only open trades when the price is on the right side of the long-term moving average, and we can do this here and include that so it's always in the strategies. And there's many other features. So I'm going to stop this now just for demonstration purposes and move to the collection. Now, I'll just get rid of those, and what we can do is, now that we've got some stuff in the collection, because I had a very loose acceptance criteria, we've got quite a lot of almost garbage in the generator because I've not asked it to have any real strict strategy. So now let's see if we can kind of improve on what we've got. So let's make sure we've definitely got a profit factor of, let's say 1.1. So now we've got 30 out of the 300, and they have at least 150 trades. and maybe a good return. In fact, I think the best thing, minimum balance line stability of 60. Okay, so we've got a few kind of good looking strategies here, but we've generated for 3 minutes. And now what we can do, I'll delete that. We can kind of go, okay, so let's have a look. One thing we haven't really tested for in the environment, we'll just do that visually, is that how this is the out of sample. So the generator has used this white part of the data to kind of come up with a strategy and test it there. And then now it's tested forward on this. And as we can see, for all of these, actually, they've all tested forward pretty kind of similarly to how they've tested in the back test. And so they've all got a reasonable return over drawdown, a reasonable number of trades. This one's looking great, actually. It's got 432. And so now what we can do is we can perform some robustness tests. Now, this is actually showing that these two strategies are very closely correlated. And so maybe we can just get rid of that one. So now we've got 3 unique strategies. Now what we're able to do is we can click into each one and inspect it. So what we've got is it's telling us the stop loss and take profit. It's telling us we can see this is one of the entry signals and the parameters, this is another one, and this is the exit. And from here, we're able to perform some other tests. So we can basically, let's have a look at the premium data and see how the strategy may change. Okay, so it's very, very different on the premium data, that one. Darwin X, very different. So it's showing as profitable on all of them, trading quite differently, but it is profitable on all of them. So it's not a massive no there, but I would like to see them trade a bit more similarly. We can also then just check on different time frames and see how the curve changes. It's actually still profitable on M30 and H1, so that's definitely a good indication of a sensible strategy. And we've got optimization, normalization, walk forward. My 2 favorites are we can have a look at the multi-market and just hit run there, and it will show how it's traded on all of those different markets. Now again, I like what I'm seeing there. On every single one of these markets, it's actually come out profitable. So it's a very good sign of robustness. Monte Carlo, it's going to run 20 tests. It's going to change the indicator parameters a little bit, and it's going to show me how many have a profit factor of 1, so are profitable. 16 of 20, that's generally a pretty good result. If I'm just looking at a kind of cutoff value, 80% is what I use, and that 16 of 20 is 80%. So that one looks like a reasonable strategy to at least put on a demo account. So I'm going to save that as MQ4 and save that as MQ5. So just a note, I regularly create content and share my strategies. So if you want to get more strategies and EAs from me for free, you can subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a new upload. Now for these final EAs, I've shown the example of me going through this collection. I'll go through that. There's 2 other ones remaining. I'll check them manually with some robustness tests. And any that pass, I'll be downloading them as expert advisors and trading them on a Black Gold demo account. And I'll make sure that I see good real-time results before I move that to a live account, a small live account, and scale it up as I see fit. I'm going to provide these expert advisors for everyone to download. So if you use the link in the description below, you're going to get access to those. For VIP users, however, I'm going to share something additional. Also, for anyone who's maybe interested in purchasing EA Studio, you can use the link in the description and you're able to get a 15-day free trial. However, as I've got on the screen here, there are certain packs that offer a lot of value. So for the single expert advisor studio lifetime license, you're €1,490. However, for these packs, you can actually get FS, for this one, for example, the optimal pack, you can actually get FSB Pro included and also Express Gen. So all 3 of the software discussed today are actually included in this pack, which is an excellent value. You're also going to get a third-party robot, Forex Gold Investor, and some trading courses and these trading robots. So yeah, there's excellent value to be had in these packs for anyone who'd actually like to use the software to generate strategies themselves. Now what I'm going to do is I'll just download this collection because, as I said, I will run through those and make sure if these are robust according to the robustness tests, I will save those as expert advisors and then provide them for everyone. What EA Studio actually allows you to do is we can use the reactor, and in this we're actually able to use the generator, but then we're also able to perform robustness tests as well and optimization. So we've looked at these 2 robustness tests, the Monte Carlo performing 20 tests and making sure 80% of them are validated. We'll also turn on the multi-market. And all out of these, I just want to see a couple. I just want to see USD JPY and one other market pass and be profitable. And so now that's what it's going to do. Is you can see it's going to generate. Once it's past that, it's going to then go into the Monte Carlo. In fact, I'll show an example. Let's just have a look. So what we can see here is we're generating. Some of them are passing the acceptance criteria. They're then going into the Monte Carlo. A portion of them, about a third, are then getting through the Monte Carlo. So far, nothing has passed the multi-market. Now we've got one. So if I stop there, we know that this, hold on, if I just get rid of that. Yeah, we've got a pretty poor acceptance criteria to start with, which is why that's not looking very good, but it passed all those tests. So now what we want to do is I'm going to come in here and let's set a more desirable set of conditions. So in this case, I actually want 300 trades and I want a profit factor of 1.2. So immediately I want some reasonably good results. I also want to make sure that there is a profit factor of 1.2 in the in sample and a profit factor of 1.2 in the in sample, or in the out sample and the in sample. We can also add some better statistics. So I mean, one I do quite like to make sure is if we've got a minimum balance stability of, I'm often 70, I'm happy with. That's good. So now what it's going to do is going to make sure that the strategy's got these statistics for the entire set, and then it's both profitable in the out sample and in sample. If we go back and hit start, now what we can see is happening is that we are generating, we're getting some passing the more strict acceptance criteria. They're then all going to the Monte Carlo, and about 40 to 50% of them are passing the Monte Carlo test. Then they are going into the multi-market, and so far only one of them has passed the multi-market test. So once they've passed all that, that can be downloaded as a zip file of all your expert advisors. So I'm going to leave that running for overnight. And in the morning, I'm going to come out. In fact, I better change that setting to 500, 600. So let me run that for 10 hours. Now, once that's finished, I will download these expert advisors from the reactor and provide them for members of the VIP club to then put on their accounts and trade. And as I said before, the original strategies that I developed in this video, manually performing the robustness tests, they will be provided as a download link in the video for everyone to download. Also, please check out my video on the side where I find the best generator settings for developing Euro USD strategies. Trade safe and bye for now.